so that you have some context on what it is was just completed. Tim Reynolds points out that the Panthers have won 2 cups in 358 days. The Maple Leafs have won 2 cups in 22,333 days. You have McDavid in Games 6 and 7 last year. He was +1 and 0 points. McDavid in Games 5 and 6 this year, to Greg's point, -5 and 1 point. Connor McDavid is the only player in NHL history to have 9 straight 90-point seasons but not win the Stanley Cup in any of them. And then this, in Greg Cote's column, I have written and said for 2 years that McDavid should not be called McJesus or the next Gretzky or given GOAT status because he is a king without a crown. Look at him swigging confidently before we even get going. He's ready because I'm reading his words as poetry, and he's never been more right. The senile old man wrote in the Miami Herald, an ancient tablet from another time. I have written and said for 2 years that McDavid should not be called McJesus or the next Gretzky or given GOAT status because he is a king without a crown. The Panthers again have verified my claim and served to underline my admittedly harsh criticism. The nickname for McDavid is just McOverrated. Look at him, standing from on high like Michael Jordan after making the 6-3 against Portland, shrugging his shoulders because he can't believe how amazingly right he is.
Greg, is it the proudest you've ever been about like a column or a sports opinion that you've written?
I have to admit, Zaz, I'm not proud of it because I created a lane. Nobody else before or since has sort of jumped on board and said, you know what, he was right. And people still are slow to say it because of that hockey cult I mentioned earlier. But there's no question that by how I define overrated, he absolutely is. And like I say, I feel more right about that now after this series than I did a year ago when it went to 7 games.
Well, if I can offer just some bit of context here, because we are, like, that's going to end up being the condensed analysis that I don't think is fair to McDavid because of what I'm about to say. In this series, I know it was a 6-game series, and I know that Edmonton won 2 of the games, but it could have easily been a Panther sweep, right? Those games, like, they were played the way Edmonton wanted to play them, and then by the end of the series, we were no longer playing the way Edmonton wanted to play. However, over the course of the series, the Panthers led for more time than anyone's ever led in a series before. Like, it went 6 games, but Edmonton was trailing for all but 33 of the minutes in the games. Like, this is an all-time dominance by an all-time team. It was very much done to McDavid. When he says it's not a choke, it's Barkov happened to him. Because on the third line, they've got another guy they're talking about like Baby Barkov because he sees the ice the same way, and he's also a two-way player. And McDavid's great, but the Panthers have more of them. The Panthers are 15 deep, it feels like, and they just flogged the 2 players that Edmonton had.
The Panthers are confidently playing their fourth line, and you're barely seeing
How
Edmonton's
many times did you
line.
say last night, amazing shift from the fourth line?
It's just like
I said it 3 or 4
wild.
times last night. And that's the thing, like home ice advantage in the playoffs, what home ice advantage is that, and Chris will be able to tell you this, you get last change, okay? Last change
except the second period
is an actual home ice advantage where Paul Maurice can make sure Barkov is on the ice as much as possible when he sees McDavid is on there because the Panthers get last change. But here's the thing. It's not that, or it wasn't that big of a deal for the Panthers, even in the road games, because you got these 3 lines. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, if we can't get the specific matchup we want, it's okay because we're so confident in our top 9 forwards that we can just roll these guys out. And that's what you saw, especially as the series went on, man.
Calling McDavid overrated after losing to this specific Panthers team the last couple of years, it would sort of be like what the reactionary thing would have been if after Oklahoma City lost to the Big 3 Heat that you called Kevin Durant overrated. Now, to say that on the show, we have done that.
He has no rings. Yeah.
He was also a lot earlier in his career than McDavid is, I believe.
For sure. He was
early
in his career, but he was still well on his way to being not only one of the faces of the league, but it was obvious that he was going to be a legend in the league. And maybe if that had happened 4 or 5 years down the line, sure, you could have started having those conversations. But to me, this is just an obvious example with the stats Dan laid out. One team being a whole other galaxy ahead of the other.
You know, last year, after the Panthers won last year, we all would have sat here and said McDavid is definitely going to win a Stanley Cup at some point in his career. Have we changed that opinion after seeing him lose again?
Greg said he wouldn't.
I was scared of him the entire series, and then by the end, I had no reason to be.